We're good? Ready? I'm just kidding. I'm self-filming. Today I want to talk to you in regards to our free time when it comes to fighting the battle of lust. But before we get into it, I'm going to ask you that if you like these videos, that you subscribe down on the bottom left and also give the videos a thumbs up. And obviously, as always, feel free to comment. But the second thing I'm going to ask you is to keep your focus on me. Maybe my next video will be regarding distractions. But you know, we all have free time to an extent. Much of our lives is determined by jobs and family and things like that, but there's always that little bit of free time that we seem to have that can cause us problems. For everybody, of course, it's different. For some, it's honing your hunting skills, so when a buck like this walks by, you don't blow it like I've done a couple times in my life. And for some, maybe it's just sitting in the basement couch watching one of their favorite movies. Why anybody would want to watch a scary movie like that is beyond me, but who am I to judge? Time can be a wonderful thing. It can be rejuvenating for the mind and the body, but if we're not careful, it can actually end up getting us into a lot of trouble. We've all heard the phrase, an idle mind is a devil's playground. That's very true, and I'm sure we all have experienced that at times. You know, we have some free time or some alone time, and we don't really have anything to do, and suddenly thoughts start coming into our mind and we begin to be tempted, whereas if we would have been busy, even in our free time or intentional, maybe watching a scary movie where your mind is engaged in that versus just not engaged in anything, that can be very helpful. I'm reminded of King David in 2 Samuel chapter 11. It says in verse 1, in the time when the kings went out to war, it says David sent Joab to go fight the Ammonites. It's very clear from that passage of scripture that David, being the king, was supposed to be going to war with his army. Instead, he stayed back at the castle where he was alone and he had free time. And if you read the rest of the story, he commits adultery with Bathsheba. And from there to the day of his death, essentially, David suffered tremendous consequences from that decision. We all have to be very careful of our time. Yep, we want to take our free time, and there's times where we even want our alone time. But if we're not careful about it, if we're not intentional about it, it definitely can get us into trouble. So the question is, how do I guard my free time so the enemy or my own flesh doesn't sneak in and steal away the joy of that time? Well, I want to give you some keys that I think may help you. And the first would be, if possible, pre-schedule something in when you know that time is coming. When you know you have some time that's coming up that's free, fill it in with something. Could be work around the house. It could be some sort of entertainment that you enjoy, but don't allow yourself to just be bored out of your mind doing nothing during that free time, unless, of course, you plan on sleeping, as we saw earlier in the video. The other thing that I would suggest is maybe don't be alone. You know, there's a lot of times where we don't necessarily even have to be doing something with somebody, but they're just around. We see them around, we know they're around, and we're in an open space where we're enjoying our free time, but we're not in a spot where we're alone and the enemy can tempt us in that regard. What's funny, some of the things that I've heard from my friends over the years is when I've asked them, so how's it going? They've told me I've heard this so many times, it's going really good, and honestly, I'm just so busy, I don't even have time to do something like that. Well, that's a good thing to do, and which is why I'm encouraging you to fill in your time, because when you make yourself busy, it doesn't give time for the devil to make a foothold in your mind and to distract you and to tempt you. And as far as your alone time, what I would suggest is don't actually be alone. You say, well, what do you mean by that? Well, if you know you're going to be alone, or maybe you didn't know and you find yourself alone, especially in times when you're feeling tempted or vulnerable, reach out to a trusted friend or an accountability partner. Let them know you're alone and ask to have them reach out to you in an hour, 2 hours, maybe at the end of the day. I always find that that's very helpful, just knowing that even though I'm alone and nobody's around, I'm not really, because I know somebody's going to check up on me. And just knowing that is a real help in making sure that I don't go down a road that I'll regret later. Another thing you can do, and instead of getting on your phone or computer or whatever and getting involved in the social media craze, maybe give somebody a call. Give that same trusted friend a call or another person and talk about something that helps get your mind off of the fact that you are alone. Maybe it's similar interests. Maybe it's about the fact that you're feeling vulnerable and tempted. All those things can help. Just fellowshipping with somebody, even over the phone, and just hearing another person's voice can always be very helpful in fighting those temptations and urges that every man gets. Hopefully these tips help you. They only help you as long as you're the one that's intentional about them. You're the one that's got to pick up that phone. You're the one that has to reach out to your friend. And if you don't, you could possibly be asking for trouble. But if you do, I think you'll find that it's a really big help to you to get through those times when you are truly alone. And they might be times that are actually supposed to be refreshing and constructive versus times that are regretful. So until next time, may God bless you. And I hope to, by God's grace, bring you some more tips that I found that have helped me in my journey. I'm going to finish my nap that I started at the beginning of this video. I'm just kidding. You knew that was a joke, right?